Before I could reach him, Dante was gone. I would mourn later, but first, enemy to kill.
Sniper Elite has always offered a bit of brilliant B-movie action, and Sniper Elite VR is very much in the same vein. But Rebellion's long-running series, here co-developed by Just Add Water, feels wholly refreshed with a sniper rifle actually in your hand. Sniper Elite VR plays very much like a mid-tier console shooter. A modest 5-hour length of 5+ hours depending on difficulty and skill, pleasing production, and the usual gamut of mission types that you'd expect in any campaign cycle. Throw in the World War II backdrop and it's essentially an exercise in nostalgia for a bygone era of console shooters. But whereas alternating between sniper and infiltration missions, peppered in with a few action set pieces, might feel familiar with a gamepad, in VR it's both a welcome step up from a lot of other shooter campaigns and even enhanced to some degree. It's the weapons that really shine here. Sniper Elite VR is far from a simulation, automating some of the busy work behind reloading and aiming, but it strikes a great balance between accessibility and maintaining some sense of authenticity. When playing with dual motion controllers, most guns in the game require some combination of removing and replacing a clip, then pulling a charging handle or something to similar effect. What at first feels cumbersome soon becomes a process, one that instills a sense of urgency for each and every bullet you fire. Miss the mark in a sniper's nest, and you're not only giving the game away, you'll also have to fumble a reload under fire before getting your bearings through the scope once more. Charge into a Nazi bunker with guns blazing, and if you haven't already killed everyone by the end of your clip, you'll likely get tagged before you fully restock. This, and the need for a steady hand for a straight shot, makes Sniper Elite a shooter that demands effort and attention, even if its guns don't carry quite the same weight as, say, The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. Playing on the medium difficulty, I often found myself pinned down behind desks and rubble, swearing as I hurriedly tried to switch out clips, and then training my eye to my sights as I risked leaning out for a quick, controlled pot shot. Machine guns convincingly rattle if you hold the trigger down for too long, and a shotgun's wide spray makes it great for instant return fire, but a death sentence if you get caught needing to reload every individual shell in the middle of combat. It really helps underscore that you're fighting in a different, more archaic era of weapons technology to a lot of other VR shooters. Moreover, there's an almost incidental degree of added realism that really works when it comes to the sniping. I was always aware, for example, of the minuscule movement my hand would make as I squeezed the Oculus Touch trigger, and just how much that would impact my aim. Sniper Elite VR also doesn't need that feature where you click in the stick to hold your breath because, guess what? You just hold your breath. In some senses, it genuinely does feel like the series has found a more natural new home inside VR. All of that is true for using Oculus Touch, Valve Index, PlayStation Move, and other motion controllers. But on PSVR, you can also play with the rifle-shaped aim controller, and that does come with big pros and some important cons to consider too. Weapons feel amazing to hold with this option, especially machine guns, but you'll also have your reloading automated for you, and that removes a lot of the routine I was just talking about. It completely changes the game's pacing and makes it much easier too. Still, that trade-off might be worth it for you personally, and you can always switch back to the Move controllers otherwise. If you want to know more about the differences between the platforms, make sure to check out our graphics comparison video, but each version we've played holds up pretty well. Not everything works in Sniper Elite VR though. The melee combat is an obvious afterthought that sees enemies fall down with so much as a tap on the head. Its feather-light implementation stands in huge contrast to otherwise weighted combat, but Rebellion and Jaw still got a lot more right than they did wrong. And yes, the campaign's pacing is pretty routine by traditional gaming standards. You'll sneak a bit, snipe a bit, maybe provide cover fire for an ally, and then defend a certain zone with them later on. Sometimes you'll be setting explosive charges, sometimes you're clearing an area full of enemies. But here's the thing, we could actually use a bit of routine in VR shooters right now. Sniper Elite VR might not have the impressive realism of a Boneworks, for example, and it won't go down as a groundbreaking experience, but it is a game made with undeniable expertise. It knows how to pace a campaign, when to open up environments, and how to make its enemies behave in combat. Its laundry list of FPS objectives might be unoriginal by flat screen standards, but in VR it's kind of a rare variety. It's exactly what so many VR gamers repeatedly ask for, a fresh, story-driven campaign that isn't just a disguised arena shooter or padded out with roguelike mechanics. You can, it seems, teach an old dog new tricks. Stealth, for example, works really well here. That might be because there's no real incentive to leave enemies untouched, so they usually end up dead before they can do anything too silly. But that lack of clumsiness helps keep the experience grounded, and poking your head out from behind cover, scoring a headshot with a silenced pistol, and then slowly weaving between desks to move on undetected, works better here than in a lot of other stealth games. That said, objective markers and stealth indicators aren't exactly complementary to an immersive VR experience, and to that end, you can entirely strip away the UI should you so desire. Less forgivable though is the campaign padding, which is unashamedly cheap. There are a decent number of levels in the game, and a decent chunk of them are even on impressively large maps, sometimes even with multiple routes to objectives, though there are some shorter, less dimensional missions too. But there's also a handful of times you somewhat conveniently revisit past locations in missions, and these are more remixes of existing levels than they are something genuinely new. And in what feels like a knowing attempt to pad out the experience even further, campaign missions require you to gather a certain number of stars before unlocking them. That means you'll almost certainly need to be replaying older campaign missions over and over again once you've unlocked better starting weapons. My final playtime for the campaign was definitely around 7 hours or so, but I'd estimate at least 2 of those hours were spent grinding those stars. So summing up, Sniper Elite has always been a bit of a B-movie treat by normal gaming standards, and while that's still true of Sniper Elite VR, some of the series' staple elements are really enhanced by the platform. Aiming down the scope, steadying your sight, and pulling the trigger before readying the next round is a calculated and convincing process with perfectly streamlined authenticity. Throw in a variety of other objective types across a decent length campaign, including comprehensive stealth segments and brilliantly rustic street shootouts, and you've got a VR FPS that will tick a lot of boxes for a lot of headset owners. It's not the platform's most groundbreaking shooter, but Sniper Elite VR is proof you can teach an old dog new tricks, and that's more than enough. Thanks so much for watching this review. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment if you liked it, hit the notifications button, and we'll see you soon for yet more VR reviews.